Alright, I'm going to show you guys a little bit about these gas gauges for a VW bus. Got a little bit of difficulty with some of these, and maybe you guys will have the same issue. One of the things I've found is this is one of the aftermarket ones. I don't know where I got this, but they also fit the same application as Ghia, a late model Ghia, like I think 68 to 73 or something like that. Don't quote me on it, but you can look that up on your own. You'll find out that this gas gauge style, like with this canister style, was on the bus and also on the Ghia. And then this one is for a Bug. And one of the things I've wondered is if the Bug one would work in a bus. And what we're going to do is we're going to try it, because what we've had happen is see this little wire here that they put on these. I don't know if you can even see it in the video. There's this wire. We found that some of these have the wrong amount of resistance to them. So even with the gas gauge, so like when the gas gauge is full, it never goes all the way up to full, and then it goes, when it goes down, it little by little. And also we found like old ones like this one, this one's really bad, but the wire gets corroded, and it's just a little tiny bit of corrosion on it, and it starts having problems, and they don't work very good. So you'll have a lot of problem with gas gauges on your buses a lot of times, because because the old fuel or whatever. And then you can go to Wolfsburg West and you can buy a brand new one, and they're $65. So kind of pricey, for this thing. And I believe, I think theirs might be VDO. I'm not sure, or they're making them themselves. Maybe they're better quality. I don't know, but it's $65, so it's kind of expensive for the part. When you can get one of these for the Ghia, like a lot of websites will have them for like even as low as like $20, or on eBay or something like that. But we found the resistor wire to be slightly different, and I've had problems with a few of them. I put them in the car, and you have to clean the corrosion, which we use Tarnex. We'll take Tarnex and actually put it on the wire and then rinse it off really good, and that usually cleans up the wire before you put it in. And also test it before you put it in. So if you're going to go with one of these canister style ones, definitely clean it and test it before you put it in the car, because we found out many of them are not good. So in lieu of doing this, these are about $65. These here are about $20. Okay, and the bolt pattern on these is the same. Let's look at this, how it fits in the tank. So from the looks of it, here's how it sits in the tank. It actually sits in just like that. Okay, so why would this not work? And that's my question. We've looked at the depth of the gas tank, and it's very similar. We ran this thing all the way up, and I had to bend it just a little bit like that to make it so that it'll be full and empty in the right place. We did test it with the gas gauge. It seems like it'll work. We did find that even with this, I have an aftermarket gas gauge from Wolfsburg West, and what we did find with this one, or with the canister style one, that we're having an issue with the float being all the way down, and it's still having a couple of gallons of gas in it, and it being showing empty at about, like, say right here, showing empty. So it does give you plenty of gas for reserve. So what I'm thinking is going to happen is when I run, it'll show me completely on reserve, and I'll have like 2 or 3 gallons of gas still left in my tank, which I'm okay with that. If you're okay with that, maybe you'll want to do the same thing and try one of these, because like I said, I put in 2 or 3 of them of the other style, and I've had issues with every single one of them. And what this will do is it'll show that I'm full when I'm full, and it'll show that it's completely empty, and I'll have a couple of gallons of gas left from what we can tell. We're going to try this, and then we'll let you know what we think here, and when I run low on gas. And I don't know if I'll have the results in the same video because it's going to take me a little while to run out of gas. But I'll look at the comments. I'll pin a comment that shows what the results were after I run out of gas, or if it runs out before. I don't think it actually is not going to run out before. It's actually going to run out. It's going to show it's empty, and I'll have a couple gallons left. And I think that's kind of the way that it was made originally. But we did notice, even with both style, and we did clean this one, and it seems to be working properly, that the resistor wire is not the correct one. And maybe that's the case with a lot of the aftermarket ones. Maybe the ones from Wolfsburg West have the better wire in it. I don't know. But, if you were looking for a cheaper alternative, this might be the way to go. And if you were looking at these, I've had a few of these that I've had problems with. So I have one in the camper van that's got a problem right now. I bought two for this one. I've had a problem with both of those. We were just experimenting with this because we want to look for a less expensive alternative. I do have to buy one for the 67 Westie. I bought several of these, and at 65 bucks a piece, let's say I bought 10 of them, that's $600. It adds up to a lot of money. So if I can save some money myself, I'll tell you guys about it, and we'll see if it works. All right, I'll talk to you guys on the next portion of the video. So I tested this on a 67 gas tank, and this is 67 because it has the extra gallon, which is one of the big differences between 66 and 67 and earlier. The earlier gas tanks were the same until they didn't have gas gauges. So we found out that they're clocked the same position. So in a 67, it's almost a bolt-in to use this gas tank sender, because it goes like this. You can see the mark here in the back. This is the back of the vehicle. Now on the other gas tank, the sender is actually located right here. So it actually would hit, if you can see here, it's about right here. We'll show you on the other tank in a second. I'm just showing you on this one so you can see if you have a 67 bus. I think you could easily put the bug sender in, no problem. On the bus, we're going to have to bend it over. Let's take a look. Sorry for the lawnmower guy, it's a little noisy. I don't know if you guys can hear it, but you can see that this is a little bit more centered in the gas tank on the earlier models. And this, you have to flip the float over to go that direction. But you can see that it will actually hit the side of the tank right here. So what we're going to do is just bend it over a little bit. So I tested this on the 67 before we took the tank out of this, not knowing that they were in different positions, because the 67 is up here. Alright, so what we ended up with is about like this position. So put it in, mark it, so you can see where we marked it right here, and marked it here, so we know where that's where it lines up. And then just bent the float over that way so that it won't hit the side of the tank here. On the 67, it's almost a bolt-in. I would say if you have a 67 or later, maybe I think the 68s might even be the same. Won't want to check it. It might be the same on the later model buses as the 67. I'm not sure. But I think 67 had the only gas tank with the extra gallon in it. And then you just do this, bend the float. I'll let you guys know if it works. We'll talk later in the video, and we'll give it a shot. We've already tested the sending unit with the gauge. I do have an aftermarket gauge. I noticed that it does it does read a little bit off. This is the 12-volt gauge from Wolfsburg West. It looks just like the original one, but it is aftermarket. It doesn't say VDO on it. So it reads almost where it says 1:1. It's about 1/8 of an inch below the line. So, and that's where it's full, even with unless you ground it with both senders. We tried it with the other sender. Sorry I can't control outside noises. I mean, I'm just sitting here waiting for the guy to finish blowing leaves, and I can't do it. So anyway, This, I think that this is here because of a baffle. It needs a baffle because I think originally the gas gauges didn't have that slow movement. Like the new gas gauge I have has a slow movement like the Bugs do. And this one is a baffle, I think, to keep the slosh from making your gauge go up and down a lot. So you might have a little bit of gauge bounce, but if you're used to that, maybe that would be okay. As you guys interested, I'm going to go ahead and ground the gauge. We grounded it at the gauge, and it reads all the way exactly to full, the brand new gauge from Wolfsburg West. But when you ground it in the back, that's grounded, it reads to a little, like about 1/8 of an inch below or whatever, but I'd say 1/8 below full. Okay, now when we hook up our gauge, we'll do that in a second. Here, let me pause this for a second. Alright, so bring it on up to full, the gauge. We hooked up our sending unit. It's going to run it all the way up to full real quick, and it slows down real slow, and then see, well, your old original gauges kind of just jump right up, and that reads, that's actually full. So I'm at 3/4 of a tank, and it shows full with the gauge. So the little bit of resistance in the wire actually reads slightly off. Same thing with the so in other words, what I could say is, if I ground it right at the gauge, it goes directly to all the way to full. If I ground it back there, the resistance in the wire from the front and the rear to the vehicle, it goes to 1/8 of a tank. But when I hook it up to the sender and ground it, it goes to 3/4 of a tank as full. So just so you know, the bus gas gauges aren't always 100% accurate. So if you're thinking that it's going to be like all this accuracy and be perfect, it probably won't be, unless you have all original parts maybe, and then even that you'll probably have some issues. And even when we hooked up this one here and we grounded it at the tank the same way, it still went up to, it didn't quite go up to all the way to full either, because I guess the resistance, when you have this thing all the way up, there's like a little bit of that wire right there, and it reads a little bit low. So in addition to that, it was like going to zero way, like you go to about almost a half tank, and it would go to zero, be empty with this sender after it was cleaned and everything. So you know, I rarely ever have one of these. If you've ever had a bus that has accurate gas gauge, it's really rare that you do. So almost always I've had a misreading gas gauge. So even with this, we're going to end up with misreading gas gauge, but it's going to save me quite a bit of money, you know, because at least you'll be able to figure it out, you know. So if you're going to do something like this, figure out where your full point is, where your empty point is, and then know how many gallons are left in your tank. You know, kind of fill it up. We've done that, like partial fill ups and all that, to know exactly how many gallons it shows when it's out. So it shows about 2 or 3 gallons. There's about 2 gallons left or 3 gallons left when it's all the way showing out of gas on the inside the bus. So that's what we figured on ours. Do yours the same way if you're going to do something like this. Make sure you know where it runs out, and then all you do is just, you know that 3/4 is full. When it's down to empty, it's still got 2 gallons. And then you're, you know, kind of gives you an idea of where you're at. At least it's better than guessing. We're all done. It is full of gas, and look where it ends up. It's cool. And we tested it. We did actually drain the gas out, and so that's completely full. And we tested the gas, draining it out, and how many, you know, we should run out. It should be right at the bottom, right at the R. When I turn it off, let's look. See where it ends up. It's ended up right at the R, or right at the bottom of the R, right when you know, with the little blast line, I guess. When it's got about 2 gallons left in the tank, so that'll give me time, like reserve. So I think that's kind of how they work, but should work fine with the Bug gas gauge, gas sender. So anyway, it does work. If you want to try it, I'll put a comment, check the pinned comments down below. After I run it through a tank of gas, I'll let you guys know how many gallons I had left. Of course, yours might be different. It depends on the gauge. This is an aftermarket Wolfsburg West gauge. So the original gauge might read different. I don't know, probably does. But, it's something when you do, if you did something like this, you want to definitely test it and, with the gauge out and move the sender up and down. But it does bolt in and it does work as far as going in the hole. And, actuating going up and down. We did, like I said, we ran the gas out of it and it went all the way to empty because we know that it worked that way. So, and it didn't get caught against the side of the tank. We just bent it like we showed you in there. All right, I'll talk to you in the next video. Please like, share, and subscribe. Check out those comments. Make sure you make a comment yourself, and talk in the next video.